Seeing no comments or corrections, I guess, Darcy, you can call the roll for the vote.
Right. I'm going to call everyone. So if you're here, please say yes, or if not. Mark Hansen.
Yes.
Jen Watson.
She's trying to get in.
Okay. Karina.
Yes.
Paul. Josh. Ryan.
Yes.
Mark. Leland.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Celia. Ken K.
Yes.
Ken Sands.
Here.
Jason. Stacy.
Yes.
And Chad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Any public comment for the good of the board? Members of the public can just speak up. All right. Administrative communications.
Basically, I told them I would take that one as they've been wrapping up their schools. That would all be the same, that they're meeting with their principals, meeting with their staff, having grade level meetings, vertical meetings, and basically trying to wrap up the end of the year.
Superintendent communications or board communications? I haven't seen anything from the board point of view.
No.
Nothing new, Mike?
Not as far as communications. I have my report, but not as communications.
All right, that takes us to reports, and it's all yours.
Okay. Quite a few things going on at the end of the year. We have, first of all, discussed trimesters at the middle school. It's kind of coming on reflection of being through COVID-19 and the grading practices, and we'd like to try to maybe extend the fact that to use trimesters up to the middle school. It gives us more help with the unified arts schedule once we've been in the building for a year. It's a transition the parents are used to from the elementary school. From K4, they're already on trimesters. So we kind of like to pilot or expand putting the trimesters up into the middle school. Angela and Scott have reflected a lot with the staff, starting with the unified arts team, and then moving into the teachers on the last few days that they were discussing it. And they feel like there's a lot more positive things that would help with doing trimesters, and then have the natural transition to quarters or half semesters or year-long classes at the high school. So they would like to try that out. And I think I just saw Angela on here, so if there's any questions specifically related to that, she can help. There was a King family, the King appliance store donated a washer to one of the families that was homeless and now has a permanent residence in Newport, but we were going to do something to help them find a washer, and somebody ended up donating that to them. We do have to maybe have a conversation at late at the end of this meeting, not necessarily decision-making because there's a lot of things in play here, but there's people who are asking to use our sports fields, and we've tried to hold off until the MPA has their deadline, or they're starting things on July 6th or 7th. And I don't really want to start our fields being used by other people if we haven't had any use forms or having our own field to have regular in the field. So I think we just kind of need to have a consensus that we're okay if we wait and have Mary and I and Mark and some folks weigh in on that prior to allowing rec use on our fields, because we don't know what the guidelines are going to go by and those types of things. So those are some of the things that are front and center on my mind. And I obviously brought up the July meeting. We got to kind of make a decision on that if we can at the end of the meeting. So I would take any questions on those. I know the trimester one is something that just came about and it's kind of conversational, but they'd like to try it at the middle school and what you guys might think of that. I think there's a lot of positives to it.
I'd be curious if Angelo could maybe elaborate on what the benefits would be of that over the current system.
Yeah, I gave you a couple, but she can reinforce that.
Angela?
I saw her for a little while. Ange, you still here?
No, I think she disappeared.
She texted and said she can't hear anything. So she can't hear what you need.
Ryan, there's an extended period for them, a couple more weeks for them to be able to assess, do a little more formative assessments, where kids are still working on some things. The Unified Arts schedule, it allows them to have more flexibility in that schedule to put more Unified Arts in a consistent way. And I don't know if Darcy, maybe you want to weigh in as a teacher, if you guys had conversations on how you see that. I mean, you're more in the 5th grade where kids are coming up pre-K to 4, but there was a lot of positives that she saw.
Absolutely. Some of the Unified Arts our kids were not able to access last year because of the limited amount of time. So they're doing an ABC schedule this next year, and that will allow our kids to be able to access more of the Unified Arts, and also be able for us to say, the student is not good with IT, but they're really good at art. So they could potentially take art for 2 trimesters instead of taking IT, those kind of things. And it also opens up the schedule so that teachers are able to have prep periods. So we were pretty excited about it.
We also got a chance to put Title I support in as a classroom, so the kids are not being pulled out of another content area to access Title I. So it kind of naturally fit into their schedule and gave them more.
And GT as well.
And GT, yeah.
Thank you.
Lori, those were about all the things that we discussed about, wasn't that?
Yeah, those were the big things. We had been working to find a way for the title support to be really supplemental without students missing any of that core content. So that trimester schedule would support that for those kids.
And I guess we're kind of asking, again, this is the first year being in the middle school, and the one they used last year didn't work. So maybe if they said that trimesters don't work, we come back to discuss it with you more and say, we'll still continue to look at another option, but we'd really like to give this a try and see if it supports our kids. And it's, like I said, something that parents are used to for pre-K to 4. They're already in a trimester mindset.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I was just going to say that it was too bad it didn't go through education before it hit the board.
Well, this is a report function. It may not necessarily be something we need to take action on.
No, I understand Robin's point of view.
But that's what we're doing.
Yeah. No, and again, Robin, if it doesn't work, it's kind of a work in progress, but you definitely had we had time. It kind of came at the end of the year when they started discussing schedules for coming into next year. Time was a little bit of a restraint and reflection on, but definitely I hear what you're saying.
Yes. Robin. Oh, that was just some bell in the background, I guess. All right.
Not here, not here.
All right. Any other comments on this? Is this something we have time to send to education first and then come back to the board?
I think not. I think to try this out, because like, let's say it doesn't work out like we had anticipated, and we come back and say we have to have more conversation, and we have a hybrid system, and maybe 7th and 8th grade do something, and 5th and 6th do something. I mean, I think we want to try this out because they've found a challenge. So I definitely think we could report out maybe partway through the first trimester or the first part of the year to the education committee and see how it's working and see if they're ready to ask more questions or sort it out. But we kind of want to move forward with the schedule because, you know, Scott and Angela have found some challenges with one that they had last year.
I don't think we need a motion for this. I mean, they usually set up the schedules themselves.
Yeah, but this is more of this really, I think this ought to go to the education committee first. I don't like the idea that it's kind of getting pushed through, Mike. I kind of think this needs to, it's a really big change.
Oh,
I'd have to agree with that, Bill.
We can do it in July. We'll go to the education committee in July. Not a problem.
I thought we weren't having a meeting in July.
Well, we're gonna need to now.
Okay.
So I appreciate that, Mike, because I think it's something that needs to at least be reviewed. I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. I just think it needs to go through the proper channel.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Angela and Scott can be there to talk through all the processes that they've been through to
So how would you like me to deal with the
Hang on.
going to trimesters?
What do you think? Ryan, you still with me?
But someone needs to tell Max.
Hey Max, can you mute?
Did you say, can I?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's better.
Mike, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we've had some light conversations about schedule, not that we are looking to change our schedule at all, but we want to be prepared to be responsive for whatever comes this fall. You know, if we're allowed to have smaller groups of students at a time, not the whole student body, you know, I think that might not be, I don't want to make other people go to a meeting, but you might want to throw me on that agenda too, based how things go, because I want to try to maximize the best of whatever we can this fall. And if that means tweaking schedules, I know one of the ideas floated around, of course, we're kind of hamstrung with the other Tri-County schools, is doing like just all, instead of A day, B day, just do a semester class. So it would basically be all the A days just first semester and all the B days just, you know, there's some pluses, minuses, but put me on that agenda too in July.
Chris, I'm sorry, with all the feedback, I didn't hear what you wanted me to do with the motion.
Ryan, can I push this off to new business and deal with it there?
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you.
All right, so board chair report. Many of you saw or were involved in the graduation. I think it went off very well. As Mary noted, particularly with me having a senior this year, it was quite emotional. And I think our kids have come through this, students, young adults have come through this with a significant amount of pride in having completed this under the circumstances that they have. And so I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing what they do next. I don't have anything else. I'm hoping next year will be more normal, or but there are elements that we may want to take from this year and incorporate in next. I think there was certain things that I heard from parents that they thought were wonderful, like being able to go up with their student, for example. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Yesterday, Josh Grant said there were over 1,800 views of the ceremony on the YouTube channel. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Chris, I had one more thing on my report.
Oh yeah.
We did do some update on the questionnaires. We had about 701 students, 420 households respond, 41% from Nokomis High, Regional High, 40% from the middle school, 20 from Sebastica, about 13% from Somerset, and 16 from Etna. And some of the schools also did some other questionnaires, and it was all about, most of it was positive. They strongly agree with how we handled remote learning. There is some more. The 49 responses said that they really enjoyed the small class groups and video conferences, the outdoor learning, and phone calls with the teacher. So we will continue to reflect on that data on how we move forward. The admin team and I are going to meet on early July, right before the education committee, and start to plan for the three alternatives to return to school, which would be hybrid model of both remote and in-person, and then also fully remote. So we will be planning some work on those options. But we did get some good feedback on how they wanted to communicate. How many had, like 60% I think had pretty good internet. Another 30% had somewhat stable internet. But you know, we got some good information to move forward with. A lot of kids wish they could see their friends more and didn't want to have to ask mom for help all the time. That's it.
Okay. Go back to my agenda. Special committees, budget and finance. We're waiting for our meeting on the 23rd. Building committee, Chad?
Okay, we had an update on the building project. They're continuing to do punch lists, and if you go by the new school, you'll see that they put middle school above the doorway and high school above the high school doorway in standing letters, and that's pretty neat. We talked about Somerset Well. It's a project that's moving along. We have to decide whether we're going to have an attachment to the building or a separate building outside. We talked about the IT wing and the monies that are involved in that, and the monies that we will need to spend in the future. Anything to add to that, Mike?
I don't think so. There was some spraying going on for some fields. They're going to come back and do the football field next few weeks. The baseball field's in progress. They've pulled out most of the felt out of the asbestos of the part they took down, and just picking everything up on that side. That's about it.
Chad, I need to take care of something. Can you keep things moving, please?
Sure. Is there any questions on the building committee? No? Okay, then we'll move right on to education committee. Ken?
Yep, we had a meeting this month. We had a presentation from Mary about the scholarship programs. That was the third agenda item. Second agenda item was we were given an update on how Dexter Boak is handling the remote learning and how they're getting students in who need certain hours for actual hands-on. And I thought the presentation went well. And there was one beginning agenda item, but I can't find my notes. Mike, what was the first agenda item?
It was the digital data wall.
Yes, digital data wall. And if you want to give it some information on that, Lori, that'd be much appreciated.
Sure. So we've been working for a little over a year on with Kern developing a digital data wall that when we do student assessments, the DIAL, Ames Web, Fontes and Pinnell, NUIA, Empower, SAT, PSAT, teachers would get a Google sheet where they would plug in the students' scores and those would automatically feed into that data wall. It really streamlines the data. Kern presented what each student would have a student profile sheet that teachers would be able to use to go to any type of meetings, IEP meetings, meetings for GT, 504s. And there's several filters that anything we want to filter, whether it be by class, grade, maybe gender, if they're in Title I, if they're in GT, several ways to filter so we can look at what we're doing with these students to know, are we on the right track? Do we need to provide more PD or extra supports? It's just a nice way to streamline and follow students over time. And Kern did a really great job with the presentation of what those forms will look like. And we can continue to add to that over time. One of the other things we want to put on there is extracurricular activities students are involved in. It would be really nice to look at our student population to see how many are involved in that. And how does that impact their learning? My guess will be in positive ways, but just getting that all in one place where we can really look at our student body in several different ways. And there's several protections on it. So a classroom teacher would only have access to their class. Administrators would have access to their building. So there's layers of access with it as well.
Is that something that central office is going to be able to use to, say, look at all fourth graders over 10 years?
Yes, like Mike would be able to look at, that's the goal, is to be able to look at them over multiple years, not only as cohorts, but even for students, so that, even parents would be able to look at how their student did over time. And ultimately it can be added to working with Kern. We talked about, maybe when students do presentations when they're in high school, or that doesn't even have to be high school, we could reach a level where we could link some of those things in there. What a great way to even, maybe a college might want to look at that. So it has a ton of potential. What took this longest was Laura, Mrs. Donahue and I put in all of the cut scores. So it's all that background work. You have to have all of that information in there before you can actually build what the product looks like. So, and Kern was great. We met several times throughout the year to make sure that the cut scores we had in there were right, and making sure we put in every assessment that we wanted to look at, and also all the filters.
Any other questions?
Thanks for all the hard work.
That's it for the Education Committee. I guess we'll be having a meeting next month.
Policy Committee?
Well, the Policy Committee has several policies that are up for second reading. We do not have any first reading policies, but we'll be looking at a couple in next week. So at this time, the second those for second reading are compulsory student attendance, naloxone administration procedure, and reporting child abuse and neglect. So at this time, I move that we accept the 3 policies as provided.
Second.
Second with Leyland again. Any discussion over any of those 3 policies? Hearing none. Darcy, you can call the roll.
Mark Hanson,
Yes.
Jen Watson, Karina,
Yes.
Paul Carter, Josh Keyser, Ryan Parker,
Yes.
Mark Guzzi, Leland,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Celia, Ken,
Yes.
Kelleher, thank you.
Yes.
Ken Sands,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
and Chad. Thank you.
So Maxine asked, am I able to stock the AD cases with naloxone tomorrow after the vote? My thought is yes, you can. Provided we have people in the buildings who are trained to use them.
I have a point of information.
Yes.
Would someone please check with the town of Newport, because I believe Josh Keyser has moved and is no longer a school board member.
Yeah, I believe that happened last month, didn't it?
Well, he's still being called on the roll.
I believe he was still here last month.
Okay.
May I ask, show my ignorance and ask about the naloxone? What is that for?
Opioid overdose.
Thank you.
So Transportation Committee had no meeting. However, I know Dean has been involved in the Pandemic Response Ad Hoc Committee, and a lot of the discussion has been how to protect drivers and personal protective equipment and cleaning the buses. So there's a lot of that that is being thought of at the moment. Tri-County Vocational.
We also did not have a meeting. It was canceled last week.
And the one before that, we worked on the calendar and finished up the budget that you already have. So anything that Tri-County's done, that's gone through. And there is a new director. His name is Brian Levitt. He came off out of, he's from the Dover, Dexter area, but he's been down on the coast, I think down in the Calais area lately, and comes highly recommended. And tomorrow, Patrick is bringing the new early childhood teacher over to meet with Mary and see the space. So it's pretty exciting that that program's still getting on board.
Negotiations Committee, Corinna, I know that some of what we've been talking about with pandemic has led to questions about needing some MOUs. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's under new business, right, Mike? We'll talk about that.
Yeah, the MOU is more for the calendar, and I would assume what Chris is, down the road, we may need to think about MOUs. They haven't come forward yet, but they might.
Extracurricular Ad Hoc Committee, I don't think has met. Resource Officer will meet next week. And Pandemic Ad Hoc Committee, Ryan.
Yes, thank you. We met most recently last night, actually, and we've been going through the CDC's, the US CDC guidelines for schools to reopen during a pandemic. And we have moved into the stage where we're essentially going bullet by bullet down their recommendations and trying to decide as a committee what we want to move forward to either the policy committee or the board as a whole. So far, we've gone through essentially recommending to the policy committee that they create a policy or strengthen rather the existing policy. We already have one, but it's not necessarily applicable to the current situation. Strengthen the existing policy on when and how to keep students home when they're sick, or if they're unable to get home once they're at school, how we keep them in isolation safely. We have voted to move that forward to the policy committee. We have moved forward on asking for the creation and implementation of an education strategy to teach staff in the community when they should stay home, per the CDC, similar to this, the one about students. We're implementing an education strategy to teach staff and students proper hygiene, specifically hand washing and transmission. This already happens for young kids, particularly when they first get to school, but it's something that's going to be expanded to essentially every grade level every year. Let's see, what's the next one? We also voted to ensure that all of the all of the district's buildings are completely outfitted with hand washing and hand sanitizing supplies, including if we have to get more, whether that be mobile hand sanitizing stations that we can move around for different classes or events. And Mike has indicated that there may be an opportunity to use CARES Act funding for the purchase of that equipment. So we won't necessarily have to worry about finding that money in a budget somewhere that's already essentially been completed. And that's as far as we've got. We're going to pick up the next one. We'll just what our next meeting is, and then we'll just keep going through the list.
Thank you. Moving on to our new business. ESEA projects and anticipated expenditures.
So Evelyn emailed the document. I don't know if everybody got that. Mike, I don't know if I'll be able to pull that up or if the host has to pull up the document.
Hang on a minute. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Come on. Where sheets? Oh, there it is. No subject. Can you give my account, the one with just the C on it, access to share, Mike? And I can get that document up for people.
I've asked Evelyn to allow you to be able to share. I believe she's working on that. I mean, yes.
Yep. Got it.
There you go.
So this document breaks down our preliminary allocations for the 4 titles that we received federal funds for. We're supposed to know July 1st, those final allocations. That's best case scenario, but typically they don't really vary that much. So I would be surprised if there was a big variance in those allocations. So Title 1 is a little less than last year. 2 is a little more. 4 is about the same, and 5 is just about the same as we had last year. So what I did was gave you a breakdown of what our costs are with the staffing that we currently have in place and have that we've paid out of title funds. So for Title I staffing, that includes some of our literacy coaches, literacy specialists, full implementation of our reading recovery, full implementation of literacy coaching in all of our elementary schools, and Title I support at the middle school. And that comes up to that $936,609. So what we do, because our allocation in Title I is not that big, we're able to move Title IV monies and Title II monies are flexible. So we can move as much as we want or need to into Title I. So typically the last 2 years, what I've done is moved all of Title IV into Title I and then part of Title II in order to cover salary and benefits. You know, we've been very fortunate that our specialists and the coaches that we've had, most of them have been with us a while and stay. So the other end of that is we have steps and increases. So when that happens, we have to absorb that in this budget, which means I have to move a little bit more of 2 over to absorb that in addition to the Title IV. I showed family engagement is a mandatory 1% set aside. So when we get final allocations, I'll know that exact number, but it'll be pretty close to that 10,500. And it's 1% of what the final number is that we put into Title I. So if we move monies over, that would be part of that 1%. And some projects that are included in that are the National Geographic magazines that we use at the elementary level. They get to take those magazines home, and there's some parent education about how to go through those with the students. That's where we fund our summer mailings, which is the 3 mailings that go home to all students who receive Title I services, and that's done 3 times in the summer. Our homeschool connections that go home, that's K-8, those go home. Workshops or conferences can also be covered that will support the improvement of family engagement, of the school's engagement with families. Individual school family involvement events like literacy night, math night, and other opportunities where we can support parent education with the, working with the schools. This year, Kindergarten Jumpstart again is under Title I, because again, with salary and benefits, that'll be the only summer programming that it looks like we'll be able to absorb in the title with grant funds. That's a small mandatory homeless set aside for homeless students, and the reason that's small is we typically don't use it because Liz has gotten grant funds that have covered anything she's needed to utilize for students who may be homeless or foster students. And then Title I pays that $33,700 of toward my salary. That's 4%, and that's the maximum that can be applied. So then on Title II, our ongoing commitment to the professional development we have with the Maine Partnership in Comprehensive Literacy is $15,000. And then that other $42,789.38 is funds that will support professional credits, different types of PD or conferences, and that just helps support the local part that we spend on those professional credits. And that was really helpful to us this year. And then Title II, only 1% of the work I do can come out of Title II, and that would be the 1179. And then Title V is that's the smallest grant that we get. That continues to support the work we do with great school partnerships with our grades pre-K through 8 standards-based curriculum development. So our total anticipated expenditures based on those preliminary numbers is $1,088,114.79. And then just at the bottom, again, I reiterated that in order to maintain the current levels of staffing, I would have to move all of Title IV and part of Title II to cover that. And I did that last year as well in order to be able to cover and maintain that same level of service.
Lori, as a district, are we unique or out of the ordinary that we use so much title to pay for salaries? I know since I've been on the board, we've always used title to pay for various salaries. Do other districts pay for it out of their regular budget, or do they use title the same way?
I think, well, most of them use it in a similar way, because the purpose of Title I really is that interventions, that supplemental support. It's just, but they do look for us to spend some out of local, and then in order to not have it all come out of title. And just to give you an idea, we really spend not quite twice as much out of title as we do local to support those interventionists. But yeah, most do, because really the purpose of Title I is to provide those supports. It's just over the years, that creeps up. So we're having to supplement from the other titles in order to continue those levels of service.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, does that require board action to approve?
Yes, Lori needs action to approve her report for her compliance report.
I'll
make a motion that we approve the report.
Second.
I think that was Chad, and I think Ken just barely beat Robin into the second.
It's okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, you can call a roll.
Hold on just a minute, Chris, please. I guess my question is why would we have to move that money around, Lori? Why wouldn't you appropriate enough money in Title I to take care of it rather than move it around?
Well, because that allocation of that $844,705, that's a Title I allocation. The reason they give you that flexibility to move it around is a lot of districts run into the same issue we do. In order to maintain the level of interventionists that we have, you can move that money in order to cover it. You can't take any money out of Title I. So in other words, you can't decrease your Title I amount, but you can use the other titles to help supplement that Title I to do just that, to cover those salary and benefits that we typically wouldn't. We'd either have to, ask local or not have those, opportunity to have those positions.
So Laurie, that number is not actually a number you request. It's actually a number they determine based on our demographics, right?
Yes, they determine those numbers, and then they just tell us Title II and IV, if you want to move some of that to support that Title I number we give you, you can do that to help cover, salary and benefits or other projects that you may determine that is necessary for Title I. So yeah, that's a good point, Chris. Yeah, they tell us what we get in each title and then how much we can move if we need to.
Does that clear it up, Tim?
Yeah, thank you. I'm good.
Darcy?
Lori,
Okay, hang on. Who's up?
oh, it was me. It was Bill McDonald.
Ned Bill?
Yeah, board member, Plymouth. Lori, were these numbers the ones that you presented to the budget committee, or have they changed since then?
What numbers this
the
year?
1,088,000.
No, that was not presented to budget. This is separate from local budget. We didn't have those preliminary allocations at that time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All right, Darcy, go ahead.
Mark Hanson,
Yes.
Karina.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you, is it Karina or is it Karina?
Karina.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I get it right. It's one of those things that I try to do. Chris.
Yeah.
Ryan. Sorry, Chris.
Yes.
Leland.
Yes.
Bill McDonald.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Ken K.
Yes.
Ken S.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
And Chad.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the ESA ESEA report is approved, and for the next item, it's about moving a professional development day to August. I think I'll just start by asking for a motion to move one of our professional development days to August.
So move.
Second.
Who was the second?
Ken
Oh.
Sands.
Ken Sands, second. All right. Mike, you want to start off the discussion?
Yeah, so when we look at how we're going to approach school in the fall, we wanted to see if we could discuss with the association to move our last professional development day and keep it within the same contract year, but move it closer to the start of next year. So working with the Karina and Wayne and Ellen Payne, we discussed trying to put it into the calendar around the 26th of August. So we would have actually 3 workshop days at that point in time. The 25th, and as you'll see when we approve the calendar, the 25th would be a new teacher workshop day. The 26th would be a new teacher workshop day because that was already scheduled. And then our veteran staff would come in, work with the new teachers, but have that as their contract day from 1920, and then start the workshop days for 2021 on the 27th and the 31st. So that wasn't, a lot of different districts are doing this. They're moving multiple days. We didn't want to put it in the middle of August and not have it meaningful, but we thought it would give us some more flexibility, whether we're going to be remote, whether we're going to be trying to get up to speed and teach people how to go through the school with smaller numbers of students, or just go through regular school with remote, with distancing, or some type of a hybrid. So it gives us some more planning time once we get closer. It also helps us sit down and talk about how we're going to handle kids that have gaps maybe in their learning, or how we'll maybe do some more assessment early on in the year. So it was really a collaborative effort with the association, and I think it's a really good idea. And they actually polled the association members, and it was strong to neutral feeling on moving this. So teachers were kind of burnt out on remote learning at the end of the year, and I think it was good to let them go a little early and then move this into the calendar later on.
I have a question.
Sure.
Headline.
Could you elaborate on what else what other opportunities are there for collaboration and planning other than these 3 workshop days?
Not a whole lot through the summer that are planned.
Thank you.
Mike, our team plans to meet monthly and to talk about, what our strategy is. We're really not sure about what's going on as far as where we're going to be in the fall, whether we're going to be remote, whether we're going to be semi-remote, whether we're going to be in our classrooms. But the 5th grade team has made a plan to meet monthly so that we can talk about those things. And I think that's kind of it's kind of what's happening across the board. It's the team members that are deciding, to do that. It's not anything that's been designated by Angela. It's just something that we feel that we need to do in order to make sure that we meet the needs of our students when they come back in the fall, if they come back in the fall.
No, I really appreciate that, Darcy. I think Ryan was saying, was there anything structured by the district to do during the summertime that we paid people or did? But I appreciate the fact that your team is going to move, and I'm sure you're not alone. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ryan, but.
Yeah, I could speak some more, but I want to give other people who haven't had a chance to speak the opportunity first.
Well, I could go on about this too, is I think my conversations with the commissioner is if we don't know what we're going to do or we get some type of a curveball thrown at us, we're going to need a lot more flexibility in this calendar, and I will be coming back to you probably multiple times. So there's some people who aren't even setting their calendar for the next year, but I mean, we need to have some parameters so teachers know, what they're doing. But I think this is a good compromise. But yeah, would we need more time? Yeah, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
Mike, are we thinking about possibly doing something so that if we are in school and we have snow days, that we have something that we can do so that we don't have to add days on the end of the year?
Yeah, the commissioners talked a lot about whether we would ever have snow days again, because we can go to remote learning, but that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, but yeah, we should be able to pick up and go with remote learning and not have it be like this big thing that we endure. But we've got work to do.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mike, did you get a pretty positive feedback on the teachers and stuff this year on that remote learning? Did that work out pretty well overall?
I think they did the best they possibly could. And I know that they've done a lot of good reflection on it, Ken. I don't have a real great picture of it. That first survey I was talking about was more for the kids. I will get more information from how the staff felt that way, but I know they gave it their best effort, and I would say that they learned a lot.
And in my opinion, I'd rather have all 140 of my 5th graders in one classroom than do one day of remote learning. I just love to see their faces. I love to have their interaction, even if they're giving me the business. I'd just rather be with them.
Well, I think overall the kids themselves would like to be back. I mean, a lot of friends, I got a neighbor across the road. He'd be a senior next year, but you're pretty much confined. You couldn't go nowhere and stuff,
I had a 10-year-old come to Sawyer's because I work at the ice cream shop in the summertime. And she told me that her social life was absolutely destroyed by COVID-19. She's 10. Her social life is absolutely destroyed by COVID-19, and she cannot wait until it's over.
I'll just jump in again since no one else is speaking up. I'm in favor of this particular motion, but I'm quite concerned that it's not sufficient, particularly if we're going to be in any form of remote learning, whether it be fully remote or a blended model. I think the comments that have been made about the teachers being burned out of remote learning are a good indicator of that. we had to do it for 2 months, and there's a possibility that we would have to do it for longer. And so I'm concerned that we don't have enough opportunity to get teachers together. It sounds to me like there is some framework being built, but it may be ad hoc, and we don't really have a good handle on which teams are doing it, and we don't have a consistency across all the teams. So that is very concerning.
Laurie, did you want to add something in there? No. Anybody else? All right, Darcy, we have a motion to approve the movement of the professional day, and you can call the roll.
Thank you. Mark Hansen,
Yes.
Karina,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Leland,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Veronica. Did we lose Veronica?
I said yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. You were cutting out. Ken, Kay,
Yes.
Ken Sands,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
thank you, and Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Darcy, could you also include me on that vote? Jason?
Oh, I'm very sorry, Jason. You're here now.
He's been here.
I will. Well, when did you come in? Did you come in for the last vote?
Yes, I did. I just didn't pick up on that one.
Yes,
Would
he's
you-
been all along.
Can he vote for the last
Darcy.
vote? Yes.
This is Jen Watson, and I've been on all of them too, but you haven't said my name the last two.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here. Because I have 207 in your phone number. I don't know if that is.
Oh.
So are those votes that are already done, Chris? Can they vote on those, or are those done?
No.
Or Ryan,
Ryan, your thoughts?
your expertise?
Sorry to jump in. No, the vote has been cast. That would need to be reconsidered by someone who voted in the affirmative.
Okay. I believe they have passed. So if somebody wants to do that. Jason, would you like to vote
On this one?
No,
on
no.
on the
on this
the professional development day and to move to August?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Jen?
Jen Watson?
Jen Watson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very good. I have your vote. Thank you. Anyone else that I'm missing?
Don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
School calendar 2020 to 2021.
Excuse me, Chris.
Yeah.
I have a further motion
For the professional development day?
related to that.
Okay.
I move the superintendent is authorized to take all steps necessary, including the use of CARES Act funding and negotiations with appropriate organizations to convene planning teams, including administrators, teachers, and other staff from each RSU 19 school as necessary to work over the summer to prepare and present to the board a plan for an educational model reliant on remote learning or blended remote and in-person learning, including parts 2, 3, and 4 of the Maine Department of Education Working Draft Return to Classroom Instruction Framework. This plan will be presented to the Board of Directors no later than the regularly scheduled school board meeting for August 2020.
Brian, would you please email me that motion?
Just gonna ask him that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you follow that? Mike?
I'll second that.
Is that Ken or
That's
Chad? Thank you.
Did you follow that, Mike?
Yes.
The motion is in the chat as well.
Thank you.
My question is, do we need this motion, Ryan? Can't he just do this anyways? Isn't he gonna be doing this planning for next year?
Oh, I'm definitely
But
gonna
in
be
this
working
case, we'll have to come back to us for further authorization.
Are they talking about calling teachers in over the summer? Is that the question?
For planning purposes.
Yes.
My question is this care money, how thin are we going to spread it? Not that I think that this is a bad idea, but we also have, you know, cleaning and all kinds of things that we intend to take out of that money.
But I think this
asks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
I think this motion allows us to work at, I mean, we're going to meet as an admin team early July. This allows us to, if we feel the need to, bring in a leadership team or some teachers that would like to come in and work collaboratively. It would be a substantial amount of money if you bring in teachers at per diem or at 20, you know, an hourly rate. I'm not saying they wouldn't come in. I think right now we need to give them a little bit of a break, but it does give us a lot of flexibility if this passes, and then you would obviously be updated on our plan going forward. And it's pretty specific in terms of which parts of the commissioner's plan this addresses. And I would assume if anything changes, it would allow me to deal with that whenever we know what's going to happen in August.
I'll just add in that that is the intention of this motion, to essentially give the superintendent the authority to speak with the association if necessary to bring in specific individuals. I'm not sure that it would be necessary to bring in all of the teachers, but you might have the subject area leaders from different buildings. I think it would be up to the discretion of the administrators, but I'm quite concerned, as I said, that we don't have enough time if we don't put something into action. I'm very, pleased to hear and thankful that the administrative team is going to be meeting further, even more than they already are, starting in July, and that we're giving the teachers but I'm quite concerned that we're going to be in some form of remote learning. And if we're in a school building, there will certainly be adjustments, but the teachers already know how to do that and are really comfortable with it, even if it is like, desks all face a different way. But remote learning, we've only had to do it for, a couple months, and it was pretty rough, I think, for a lot of teachers, but certainly for parents as well. So I'm hoping that this gives the superintendent and his staff the opportunity to use some of that funding to specifically focus on the commissioner's draft guidance. Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Go ahead, Bill.
Ryan, the thing that bothers me a little bit about this, and I don't know if I'm against it or not, but it's kind of limited, Mike. I think there may be other areas within the district that CARES Act funding may be able to cover. And I mean, if this thing passes and if we pass this and then he sees something where the CARES Act might be able to take something else, just for example, maintenance, would this limit him to be able to do that?
I'll respond to that, Chris, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
There's nothing in this motion that dictates that the superintendent must allocate money. But what I believe you're asking is if he does, then that is certainly reducing the amount of CARES Act funding that we would have available to other things. And that is true. There is obviously a limit on the CARES Act funding. The Ad hoc Pandemic Response Committee has already indicated that it would be useful to use some of that money for hand sanitizer and stations and cleaning and hygiene supplies to be expanded, because we've never really had to clean and have the number of students washing hands and using sanitizer that we're likely going to have if we're in a building. So yeah, we are allocating money that we don't even have yet, but we know that it's been authorized by Congress, and it's not allocated for any purpose in the budget. that's going to the voters next week. I would also just say that in terms of potential expenses, I can't think of another priority that would outweigh the education of the children of the district, particularly if we have to do it remotely for an extended period of time.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I'm just kind of thinking, you know, we may be able to, I don't have anything specific that I'm thinking about, but I just don't want to pigeonhole Mike into this where he may.
The motion actually pigeonholes him. I think it gives him the authorization to use the CARES funding for this purpose.
Right, and that's what
coming back to us.
And that's kind of bothers me a little bit because I guess I have a lot of faith in Mike and being able to see something. And let's just say he can get better wireless to students or something of that nature. And he sees an opportunity to use this CARES Act money to help the district. And we're pigeonholing him with this. So it's going directly as 2, 3, and 4.
So he could choose to, as I read this, he could choose to spend the money on the wireless, and that would mean he'd have less to spend on bringing teachers in, which means he'd have to make choices about which teachers to bring in. At least that's how I read it. Is that correct, Ryan?
That is correct. And also, I would just say there is also the option that he doesn't use any of the funding for that. Maybe when the administrative team comes back in August, I'll be wrong, and they'll have had plenty of time to consult with teachers and develop a plan that meets the commissioner's 3 points on the guidance. I could be wrong, in which case none of the money would be spent for that purpose.
Corinna, do you see any issues on the negotiation side?
Oh, we'll probably be, I don't know. I mean, we've got it in the contract as what our hourly rate is and whatnot, but I'm definitely thinking that something will, compensate, another comp day, another something, depending on how it's written and how many teachers come back. I'm sure we'll go back and forth with it if it comes to that.
Okay. Anything else?
Is it only CARES Act funding that would be able to be used?
That's all that I see, Mark, that we have to do something like this. We did not set aside any other professional development money to bring teachers in to discuss this, notwithstanding the fact that we could sit down as administrators and talk to the teachers and say, let's, it would be a stretch, but mostly it would be, I would stay away from district dollars and start with CARES Act.
I would just add that for the purposes of this specific motion, it is limited to CARES Act.
Other comments? Darcy, you can call a roll.
Thank you. Mark Hansen.
Yes.
Jen Watson.
Yes.
Karina.
No.
Paul Carter. Chris, how I'm sorry, I should have asked this alone. Do I call you for the role, or do you get a vote in the role, or how does that work?
Presumably, I would only vote if there was a tie.
Okay.
Running the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Josh Keisha.
Not here.
Okay. Ryan Park.
Yes.
Mark Guzzi. Leland.
Yes.
Bill McDonald.
Respectfully, no.
Robin.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Celia. Ken. Kay.
No.
Ken Sands.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes, and Chris, you should be voting.
I have 3 no votes,
yes.
which would mean the motion carries. And Mike, you have the authority to do additional planning as needed. School calendar 2020, 2021.
Yeah, this is a very similar calendar to what we had last year. It lines up with Tri-County so that we have not the right number of dissimilar days. No more or no less professional development days. And I understand where Ryan's coming from. And again, I would go back to the fact that if we really need to do some more planning, I'm sure the commissioner and the MEA, the association is going to be willing to work as hard as we can, but I don't mind the flexibility of the motion that just passed. But this is your calendar if you have any questions.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass it, the calendar.
Second.
So can I ask a question about it now? Is the graduation day of June 18, regardless of whether we use all the snow days or not, knowing that maybe potentially there will be no snow days if we do remote learning or build in remote learning as a snow day?
That's a good question. Mary, I think, wanted to move that up, so maybe we should shoot that to the 11th. Is what you're saying?
Yes, please.
Are you okay with that, Karina?
I'm definitely okay with that. I would hate to see seniors have to wait, if we didn't use any snow days, or only even used a couple of snow days. So I would definitely be okay with June 11th.
I would be okay with that as amended if Mary is okay with that. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, I thought we did talk about moving it up because it would be very clunky to have it that late, particularly if we probably won't have snow days anymore.
Somebody want to make that amendment?
Maybe they'll make it as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
So Mary,
Do I make a motion or no?
Go ahead.
Make a motion to change graduation date to June 11th.
I'll take that as a friendly motion or amendment.
Sorry, Chad, I lost your audio.
I will take that as a friendly motion or amendment.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Anybody else got any comments on the calendar?
Mike, I have a question.
Get a couple of extra.
So we had the latitude to shorten our school year this year to, I don't know what our student days ended up. And if we have a remote learning model next year, do we expect to have that same latitude?
I think she's going to give us a lot of flexibility from the conversations that I've had with her. I mean, I don't think, I don't know how many emergency proclamations the governor's going to make, but I think as far as the commissioner allowing school boards for some flexibility in their calendars, I think we're going to have that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other comments?
So the calendar you're sharing is slightly different than the one that was part of the agenda.
It does have
the one that's been sent out.
Okay. Okay.
it has the 31st as the workshop day, and then the one first day of new teachers is actually the day, and then it has a 26th. This might have been a little different than the one you sent out.
So I'm trying to find the 7 teacher workshop days. And I count 6.
So
There is only 6.
4 in August, October, May, and June.
But you don't count that new teacher workshop day as a regular workshop day, because new teachers get 2 additional workshop days.
Yeah, they're working on the 26th, the 25th, and the 26th. So it should be green too for new teachers, but they're going to come in and work with the veteran teachers.
Right. So, and so the 26th doesn't count as a 2021 workshop day.
For new teachers.
For new teachers it does, but it doesn't count as a 2021 workshop day for our old teachers.
No,
for our veteran teachers.
that starts with the 27th and the 31st. Those first 2 days for them of the new calendar.
So then that would be 5 with the 2 comp days and 7.
Does the other half of early release days count as workshop?
They just count as half days.
I apologize, Chris. Are you waiting for me?
No, I'm not. I'm waiting to see if we got an answer here about, because what we've added up right now looks like.
Did you vote on the calendar?
There's only one labeled as. No, we have not voted on the calendar.
Okay.
So Chris, I think it's because you're trying to count your comp days as workshop days.
I'm having some audio difficulties. People are coming in very broken.
Yes, we are.
The Christmas vacation, they'd be coming back to school on Friday?
No, they come back on the 4th of January.
The next week, Robin, because the 31st is a holiday. The 1st is a holiday. Starts
Oh,
on
I
that
see.
Friday.
I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to Friday being the holiday.
Mike, is it important that you have this tonight, or can we let you take it back and sort this out?
I have 5 workshop days. How many are we going to look for? We didn't have 7, did we?
Right, that was my looking at it, because over here it says 7 workshop days, but when you count, I believe you have to count your 2 comp days as workshop days, and that would total up your 7 workshop days.
Yeah. I mean, we can, again, this is a work in progress, but I think we have it where we want to. But if that's what it says at the bottom, that those 2 are comp days and workshop days, and they're the 7 days that, because the teachers work those days, they're workshop days, like working for parent teacher conferences, and they're doing work. And then they're comped.
So is it all like the light blue ones that we're counting? Whether they have a W or a C?
You're pretty much broken up, Darcy, but.
So is it all the?
You can't count
It doesn't matter whether I
26th.
take my mic out.
to move it along if you want to change it up. I think it's all there, but if Karina has a question.
I don't. It's all there. I just wanted to clarify the 26th was last year.
I did have a quick question. I was just asking what the purpose of the early release days are, or something we're mandatory having to have, and if we do have to have them, why does it have to be in December? I just know December is a really tough month in the schools to get a lot done, so I was just days.
Veronica, I think I can pick up some of your question. Again, I don't know why we're broken up, but they're not mandatory. They're negotiated, but they do fall at certain times when you're looking at student data. You're maybe comes at a time when it's the end of a trimester or end of a quarter, and sometimes it's for goal setting for teachers. There's a lot of different reasons we put them in different places throughout the school year. And sometimes we have like assessments or something going on at that period of time. We want to take a look at the data.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I've just always.
I make a motion to accept the 2021 calendar.
We already have
The
a
motion's already
motion by Chad and Jason to accept the calendar with a friendly amendment to move graduation to the 11th.
Sorry about that. I didn't do that.
We have a really bad connection right now.
Could this be a 2-hour Zoom? Or a function of the Zoom program itself? All right. Further discussion.
Ryan, please say again.
If one person is speaking, everyone that is not speaking is to mute, and that is not happening currently.
Try it again, Ryan. All right. Does anybody else want to have anything to say about the calendar? All right, Darcy, go ahead.
Mark Hansen,
Yes.
Jen Watson,
Yes.
Karina,
Yes.
Chris,
Sure.
Joss Keezer, Brian Parker,
Yes.
Mark Guzzi, Leland Youngberg,
Yes.
Bill McDonald,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Celia, Ken K,
Yes.
Ken Sands,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
and Chad.
Yes.
Sorry, my dog's trying to vote. do you know how this works? I can't like how do I put a comment in there? Chat.
Chris, what time did the official meeting start? Because we do have a time limit.
The meeting started at about 6:35, 6:38. But I was kind of holding to the 8:30 limit. Health center. What is that about?
Chris, you may want to pass it over to Chad. I mean, it might be your audio is kind of mixed up, but I think you said you want me to discuss the health care. This is something that was gone back to, I brought up to the board for information quite a while ago. I sent you the slideshow. I've also sent you the MOU from Penny Townsend at Hometown Health. We've sat down with Penny a couple different times with Mary and Angela and the nurses to kind of sort through that MOU. We think this is a good opportunity for our kids to have access to healthcare that they may not get because of their scheduling. There's no commitment to us in terms of we're involved financially other than in-kind services for allowing them to use our facility when it's not being used by either the nurse on either side of the middle or high school. Actually, it would probably help us out when we come back for COVID-19 for some types of diagnosis and those types of things when kids are sick and they want to go down to see the hometown health people. There's quite a few of these organizations around the state, and with what we have set up for space in the new building, it will be a perfect opportunity. They go all through the main care system or the private billing. We don't do any of the billing. They take care of their phone calls coming in. It just seems like a win-win opportunity. And like I said, I sent you both the presentation a couple times from Hometown Health, and I just sent you the MOU late last week. So I would field questions.
You need a motion?
I would like a motion for this. They need to see if this can go forward, if we're boards in favor, so that they can start getting things in place.
My only question is, if it was anything that a parent should know, would they consult the parent before they could done anything?
Hold on a minute. We got to make a motion. Is there a motion on the floor, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? Go ahead, Ken, Kayla, her.
Yeah, did you hear my question, Mike?
I did. I mean, there may be a couple very, very rare situations, Ken, where that might happen, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to get to the parents. I think if it was an older student in certain circumstances, they would have that very delicate conversation with the student. I'm not sure if Maxine or Mary was on here right now, if they remember, because I think that question specifically came up, but they're going to want to work with the parents to get the kids the help they need. But there might be a couple, Ken, that they would handle in a professional manner under the rights and responsibilities they have with care for kids.
I guess if I was going to vote on this, Mike, I'd want to know what that was.
Well, I would assume it's cases of abuse, Ken, or something where the kid doesn't want to provide some information or those types of things, but I can't give you too many.
Any other questions? Veronica, do you have a question?
Yeah, I kind of want to build on what Ken was asking about, and I understand the answers aren't there yet. But working in healthcare, you have to sign any minor child of yours in for any treatment. So how would that work with this? And I understand those answers may not be available.
No, I think you're right on, Veronica. They're gonna if it's a minor student who needs to care for the parent, the parent's gonna have to sign off and have to know they're going to go through the parents to sign them up for 99% of these appointments. It's more of an access opportunity for parents than it is trying to.
So would it work a lot like our dental program now, where the parents sign up for it and then the hygienists come to the school and treat their students?
Yes, exactly. That would build on the dental program. It's very similar to that. They know a kid needs an appointment for something. They work with the parent. The parent knows the kid's coming in. The parent might bring in a younger child. Yeah, I mean, I'm just not going to look at Ken and say there's not going to be some instance where some high school kid's going to get some type of a treatment that the parent doesn't know about, but the kid needs it, and they could be 18 and over, But I'm not going to say I don't know that answer. So
there are several. There's laws in Maine that allow, under certain circumstances, minor children to be treated without their parents' permission.
Mike, I just jump in. I mean, I think primarily they'll communicate with parents because they're going to need to bill, like for insurances and claims. I think the circumstances I can see of parents might not be communicated with, is something like a kid comes in with a splinter and they take the splinter out. They may not call home for that, or, got a scrape on the playground and they give them a Band-Aid. And then, those circumstances that Mike has talked about where, they wouldn't in an abuse situation, but they're mandatory reporters, so they'd have to report it to police. But I think the intent is to communicate with parents and operate. They're really just going to be kind of like our credit union, student-run credit unions, an extension of Sebastopol Valley Credit Union. This clinic is just going to be an extension, a different office for hometown health. And so they have to follow all the HIPAA procedures and all the laws that they operate under.
I think it's a great mechanism to get healthcare access. I really, really do. So I guess my next question is, this is something that will be shared amongst all the buildings? Or will this be shared amongst all the buildings?
We did ask that question, and if there was a parent there might be some nuances where it'd be hard for the kid to get to Nokomis, but we would work and do everything we possibly could, but it would be open, to as many students as possible. That might be a little bit hard to get a kid in from Etna and Dixmont, but if that parent could still know that clinic is still there in some ways, and that's easier in some way to get the kid there, we would do everything we could. We didn't want it to be exclusionary, but there would be some challenges to getting every kid into that central location.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And my last question on this, I promise, is like Mary said, they have to be billed. So my question is, how do we give healthcare to those children who may not be main care eligible, but also have no current coverage?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mike. I know the answer to that because we've kind of worked with them a little bit already, and they offer a sliding scale. They have some access to grant funds because we've already referred some families to them and said, listen, they'll work with you. They've got a sliding scale. So they've been really open to making sure they're going to serve students.
Thank you very much.
So
I'm sorry. I believe that we have 15 minutes left in our meeting because I believe that our Zoom is limited to 2 hours. Just for your information.
All right, without further questions, let's take a roll.
I have a question.
Okay, Robin, go ahead, quick.
Maybe I misunderstood, but this is going to be for children that may not be in school. Or is it just pre-K through high school that kids will be serviced?
I think the intent was to serve students. I think if someone parent has a child and they have a younger child and everybody in the house has strep throat and they're going to bring them all in for an appointment there, or, probably strep throat isn't the best example because it's contagious, but, I think they're going to be reasonable, but we're not going to operate as an open clinic to the public. that anybody can walk in. And primary intent is to serve students.
Okay. Any other questions? Darcy?
Mark Hansen.
No.
I apologize. I have like the beans of Egypt next to me, so you'll have to give me a minute so I can get things situated. I'm going inside.
Beans of Egypt.
Needs to be a name was a book about.
No.
No. Jen Watson.
Yes.
Karina.
Yes.
Josh Keyser is not here. Ryan Parker.
Yes.
Mark Guzzi.
Hasn't been here.
Leland.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Celia's not here. Ken. Okay.
No.
Ken Sands.
Yes.
Jason.
No.
Stacy.
Yes.
And Chad.
Yes.
Like the motion carried. I'll entertain a motion for authorization for superintendent to hire during the summer months.
So moved.
Second.
If we run out of time, can we switch over to Google, or is that gonna, do you think that's against the rules? I hate to take up time, but if we run out, we need to get these people hired.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
I was. Ken.
Thank you, Chris. Who was? I'm sorry.
Ken Sands.
Thank you.
We're live streaming on YouTube right now, so I don't know if you can switch.
Okay, just have to stop the meeting, I guess.
You have administrative contacts and staff nominations left over.
Okay. I'm not going to go through the resignations. They're there. So I have 3 staff nominations. Brandy Shabbat is a special ed teacher at Sebastian Valley Elementary School. I put forward separately, and then I want to talk about Joanne and Andrew separately too.
Okay, I need I need permission for you to hire in the summertime right now.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
You want me to call the roll?
I make a motion that the superintendent be authorized to hire during the summer months.
I have a motion and I have it seconded by Ken. I just need permission to call the roll.
All
Yes, Ken. Yes, Chad.
yes.
Okay, Mark Hansen.
Yes.
Jen Watson.
Yes.
Karina.
Yes.
Ryan Parker.
Yes.
Mark Guzzi. Leland.
Yes.
Bill McDonald.
Yes.
Robin McNeil.
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Celia,
Yes.
Ken K, yes. Ken Sands,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you don't want to make a motion on all three of those hires at once because we've only got it like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can. That's fine.
Okay, I would, is there a motion on the floor to hire all three staff?
Not yet.
moved.
I move.
Is there a
Leland
Second.
and Robin.
Okay, can we take a roll, please?
Yep. Mark Hansen,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Karina,
Yes.
Ryan Parker,
No.
Leland,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Ken Sands,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
and Chad.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Mike,
you.
Mike, do you want to go on and talk about them?
No, because we didn't do the administrative contracts yet and the calendar move in
Sorry.
July.
Okay, so do we have a motion for the administrative contracts?
I think they should be extended
They should be extended
2
1
years,
year.
So
So
moved
moved.
to 1 year.
1 year.
Second,
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the first?
Robin, and then Leland,
Robin and Leland.
right? Take a roll.
Mark Hansen,
Yes.
Jen Watson,
Information, point of information.
Yes.
There needs to be discussion.
Or any discussion on them? Seeing none, go ahead and continue, Darcy.
Mark Hansen, yes. Jen Watson,
Yes.
Karina,
Yes.
Ryan Parker,
Yes.
Leland,
Yes.
Bill McDonald,
Yes.
Robin McNeil,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Ken K,
Yes.
Ken Sands,
Yes.
Jason S,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
thank you, and Chad Stratton.
Yes.
Thank you. Mike, what was the other thing that you thought we needed to vote on?
Moving the calendar date in July, either to have the meeting, not have a meeting, or not have it on the 21st.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't have that on my,
Last year, we didn't have, it wasn't
my
really,
radar.
we all agreed not to have one in July. I'm not sure I'm too excited about that, but I really need to move it away from the 21st, either the 14th or the 28th. The 14th is not a good day because it's the district, the vote. The 28th is.
We've got less than 1 minute. Can we talk about that in email?
Sure.
Many
I'll send out a
times we
poll.
have 2 in August because of things that need to be taken care of before school starts. So I would think that July could be foregone and have 2 in August if we need them.
Yep. We can send it out by email, probably.
Did you want to do it the 28th of July, Mike?
No, I think we'll go with canceling it and have 2 in August if we need to.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on that or can we just cancel it?
I think we just can cancel it.
Okay.
Okay, future items. Nothing.
Do we want to put the July meeting under future items? Or are you just going to schedule a different meeting?
We're just going to schedule a different meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it looks like that's it for tonight, everybody.
About our next meeting date, are we going to leave that blank and kind of figure it out?
Yes.
Okay.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks for picking up.